Hi, we're Richard and Jackie from Early Retirement Wanderlust, and we are really excited to be at Loudon's Motorhomes today, looking and comparing the 3 most common size camper vans that you can get.
What we want to do in this video is to look at what you get in terms of value for money, and then look at the pros and cons of a 5m40 van, a 6m van, and a 6m40 camper van.
Full disclosure here, and it's probably the worst kept secret because we're not good at keeping secrets. We are awaiting any day now the delivery of our Sunlight Cliff Adventure 540 metres camper van.
And we've had our VW T6 camper van Nelson for the past 8 years, but stepping up from a smaller size van, even if it's only to a slightly larger van, has been a steep learning curve, and the whole buying process for us was really complex.
So when we started doing all our research, most manufacturers will do their camper vans in 3 different lengths, and you have to make a decision which is best for you.
And what we want to do in this video is answer the question, is bigger always better in terms of buying a camper van? I'd love to say we're going to do this comparison in a really scientific way, but we're not. But one of the things that we are going to keep consistent is we're going to choose one manufacturer, and we're going to choose Sunlight for this because we bought a Sunlight van and it's the range of vans that we know most about. And the Sunlight Adventure Cliff is available in a 5m40 van, a 6m van and a 6m40 van.
And for the purpose of this video, we're not going to do full van tours of any of them. It's actually just us looking, what do you get different? What do you get extra the bigger the van goes? So to start off with, we're in the 5m40 Cliff Adventures. So we've actually ordered the 5m40 van for reasons that we'll go into later, but it has got a really nice roomy sized fixed bed at the back. It's to sleep lateral. Richard has actually had a lie down to make sure that he can fit in. He's 6 foot tall, and it is a really perfectly functional, comfy bed. Moving forward, it's got a bijou style bathroom, I'm going to say. It's small, but it's got everything that you need in there, and you have to accept in a 5m40 van, you're not going to get a huge bathroom. It's got a really nice kitchen area. It is tight for space, but that's not just limited to the 5m40 van. It's the same in whichever size van you get. It's got a 2-ring burner cooker, lots of cupboard space down here, lots of cupboards up here as well. So there's plenty of storage space, even though it's a small van. Now, we've not gone for the pop-top version of the 5m40 van. So for all intents and purposes, for us, it's a 2-person van. And this dinette area is brilliant. It's got plenty of space. As soon as we finish eating, we can take this table out, lots of room to lounge about. Richard's really excited because I can stay in bed in the mornings. He gets up really early and he can set up his own little workstation here, and he's got lots of space to get on with what he needs to do. Something we did want though was 4 seat belts because we didn't want to think that we could never take friends or family out on little day trips.
If we go through the pros and cons of the 540 length, the first one is obviously it's a compact van. It's just a little bit longer than our VW T6, so we know that it's ideal for urban driving. It's ideal for where we live in the Yorkshire Dales on all those tight lanes, and we're not going to have any issues about going anywhere that we want to. Secondly, it's also going to be really easy to park because it's going to fit in a normal parking space with no overhang at all. Another pro is that we are really looking forward to the fixed bed. We don't have to set it up every night. It stays as a bed and we can use it whenever we wish. And more importantly for us, underneath it's got a huge storage space and a garage area that we can put all our stuff in. And our final positive is that it's just really well designed. It has to be. It's the smallest van, so they've put a load of thought into the storage solutions, and there's loads of little locker spaces and cubby holes where you can hide all of your gear. One of the cons, obviously compared to the larger vans, is that storage is somewhat limited compared to those longer lengths. So the garage space, as you can see, is really quite large, but by the nature of it being a 540 van, it doesn't go on as long into the van as the longer vans. It's literally the width of the double bed at the back. And another con, perhaps it depends how you frame it, is that the bathroom is really quite small. I would say it's adequate for a 5m40 van, and I don't know how they'd squeeze it in any other way. And a bathroom is better than no bathroom. Moving up to the 6m vans in the Sunlight range, there are 2 options. We're currently stood in the 600 van. It has a slightly larger double fixed bed at the back, but the major advantage of it over the 540 is that it's got a larger bathroom suite. The lounge at the front is exactly the same size, so it's a little bit modular. They've used the extra length in the van to increase the size of the bathroom space. We're now in the 602 van, which is the same length as the 600 van, and they've used the space in this van to make sure that the beds you can lie lengthways. So it's basically 2 single beds with an interlinked section that could make a massive double bed. They've popped the beds up for us so that we can actually see the amount of garage space. So obviously you've gained more in your garage space, you've actually gained this unit. But in the rest of the van, the kitchen is the same, the bathroom is the same as the 540, and the lounge is the same. So all you've gained from going up to a 6-metre van in this case is the ability to sleep lengthways, and you've got a much larger bed and consequently much larger storage underneath.
So as Richard said, there's actually only one major difference in this van, and that is that you get a much longer bed. So if you're really tall, you will get a much more comfortable night's sleep. Now the big advantage of having the 2 single beds, and they are longitudinal, is that if one of you needs to go for a wee in the night, you're not climbing over each other, you can just climb out of bed easily. Obviously, with a much longer bed, you get a huge garage in here. You also get an extra cupboard, which is great for storing things in here. And above the bed, you also gain quite a lot of space for all of your clothes. So there is a lot more storage. So the thing that really struck us when we were deciding between a 5-metre 40 van and a 6-metre van is that it was mainly the extra space that you were gaining in the bedroom. Now that didn't make a huge difference to us. I think perhaps if it had had a bigger dinette area, so there was a little bit more space here, that might have changed our mind a bit. The dinette is exactly the same as it is in the 5-metre 40. So for us, it was a no-brainer. We went for the smaller van. With it being a 6-metre van, it's obviously got a slightly bigger footprint. It's 60 centimetres longer than the 5-metre 40 van. So it could be trickier to park it in normal car parking spaces. You've just got to be aware a little bit more when you're parking. You might get the bigger bed, which makes it more comfortable for you to sleep if you're tall, but you still get exactly the same size bathroom, and it's a little bit snug in here. And finally, the 6-metre 40 van, and you could almost have a party back here. The bed is huge. It's the same as the bed that you get in the 602, the longitudinal bed. So it's got lots of storage underneath it. It's got the extra cupboard here, and it is vast. Now the bathroom in this van has a slightly different configuration to the 5-metre 40 and the 6-metre. We think it is probably slightly bigger and slightly wider. It does feel a little bit more roomy in there, and the dinette area, you do get a bit of a bonus. It is slightly bigger, so you have got that little bit more area to lounge about in. It's almost like a modular build. It's got a slightly different shaped shower and toilet block, and then it's got this cupboard here. This is actually part of the shower and toilet area, and then there's a nice roomy cupboard under here. They've moved the USB points. There's a USB-C and a USB point just here instead of here, but yeah, not a huge amount of difference. Richard will be really pleased. There are 2 hooks there for putting your coats on. Quite handy when it's wet outside.
First advantage of the 6-metre 40 van for us over the 6-metre and the 5-metre 40 van is that there is a little bit more space in the living area. We can't quite quantify it, but it just feels a little bit roomier, a little bit airier. I mean, it is still a small living space, but it's suitable for probably 4 adults. The next pro is to do with the bed size, and it's exactly the same as the 6-metre van. It is, by having longitudinal beds, it feels like a much larger bed area, and it is, and consequently it's got much more storage underneath in the garage. And a final positive for us, as well as having a larger garage space, in the larger van there are much more opportunities for cupboard space, and the 640 van definitely has more cupboard space than the 540 van and the 6-metre van. But that does lead me to the first problem. The first con for us with the larger van is to do with that largeness really. All of the Fiat Ducatos are based on a 3.5 ton chassis. So if you've got a larger van, it's naturally going to eat into that 3.5 tons. It's also got more equipment inside the van, so it's going to weigh heavier. And by having more storage space and a bigger garage, there is the temptation to be able to fill it more, but it's got actually less payload than the 5-metre 40 van. We chose our 5-metre 40 van because it had probably got one of the best payloads for our purposes. There's no getting away from it. A 6-metre 40 van is a long van. I'm not the most confident parker, and I don't think I'd be confident parking this thing in a tight car park. And likewise, where we like to go in the high mountains and things like that, I'd just be much more comfortable with a slightly shorter van. Having had a good look at the 3 different lengths of van, the natural question has got to be, so what's the right van length for us? And I don't think there's an answer to that. It's a really complex one. So what we're going to do is try and illustrate that with the thought process that we went through in terms of choosing our 5 metre 40 van.
So the biggest consideration for us actually was how we could park the van behind our house. We live in a small mid-terrace house that's only actually 5 metres wide. So we're never going to fit a 6 metre 40 van behind the house in our parking space. And it had a really tight driveway with narrow stone walls. So yeah, the 5 metre 40 was the obvious choice for us just from that point of view.
And on the theme of parking, obviously once you go over a 5 metre 40 van, parking spaces, you're going to be relying on overhangs and things like that. And it's going to be our daily drive. So we didn't really want to be having to worry about where we could park it. And I think in my heart of hearts, a 6 metre 40 van, it may be okay for many drivers, but for me, it would be just a little bit too long.
The next thing that we thought about is how you're actually wanting to use the van. We go away probably at least half of the weeks a year. We were away for 30 weeks last year in the camper van, and we go to very remote places. We go to some very tight spaced places, to the Scottish Islands, and a 5 metre 40 van is just perfect for us because it will go anywhere. The downside to that, I suppose, is that the 5 metre 40 van, once you've got there, if it's really bad weather, you are stuck in a very small little van.
Yeah, and it's your style of holidaying. So, for example, when we were on our last trip around Europe, touring around France, it very much was a touring holiday and we moved on every few days. Whereas if you were going to a campsite and staying there for a fortnight, I think it would be better, as Jackie sort of suggested, to have a larger van to live in because you're not having to move on and find new campsites every single day.
And you just got that bit more space, particularly if the weather's not great.
And then I guess the last conundrum to try and solve is to do with payload. And we were really naive stepping into the next stage of our campervan ownership, and we didn't really understand payload. But if you keep in mind that all of the 3 vans, no matter what length they are based on, are limited to 3.5 tons, naturally, by having the shorter wheelbase van, you have got more scope for a larger payload. And conversely, with a larger van, you've got less flexible payload. And it is something that's a big consideration in campervan ownership.
It is. It's not insurmountable. You can actually uprate your van to a higher payload, which I understand is quite an easy process. But with that comes its own disadvantages because you are then limited. If you are younger, I know our children, they would have to pass a different driving test to be able to drive a higher uprated van. So there's just little things like that to consider. So this was just a quick video, not showing you around all of the vans in detail, but just to give you an idea of what you get different in the different size vans. We were actually quite surprised that there wasn't a huge amount of difference in some of the vans. Ultimately, the decision does come down to you and what your priority is. Is it space? Is it not having that huge amount of space because it's a smaller van to drive around and easier to park?
But it's a really nice problem to have and it's a really nice problem to figure out. And hopefully this video has helped you just in a little way to try and understand the complexities of buying a camper van.
What we would suggest is that you go to a showroom where you know that you could see 2 or 3 of the different size vans. You can actually go in them all, compare them side by side. It will give you a really good idea and you get a good feel for which van is right for you.
Well, that's it from us for this week. We hope you've enjoyed the video and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.